Hello and welcome to the Collusion the Gathering Fantasy Football Podcast. This is your Week 8 recap. As always, I'm your host, Ashworth. Is defending champion, David Thornton. How's it going?
Doing all right. I apologize if you hear a dying person in the background. My wife apparently has lost the ability to breathe correctly and is hacking up a lung. But besides that, we're doing okay over here.
Yeah, you're doing the podcast from a sick ward this week, right?
Yeah, that's just the way it goes sometimes. But, we press on and we do our best to come away winners.
Yes. Well, it just gets glummer and glummer for me, so I'm not sure why I'm still doing this, but I decided that if I only podcast when I'm doing well, that's kind of a cop-out. But you had a victory this week, which we will get to.
Mm-hmm.
We're going.
Some people are just a glutton for punishment, so it's okay if you want to keep coming back and reliving how terrible your team is.
Yes, I basically given up, but I probably on Sunday again will put my heart into it only to be crushed. So,
and to be fair, Giesland is actually worse than you, but
yes,
just want that on for the record.
All right, we're going to start with the Battle of the Schlossbergs, and I was looking forward to this. This is Jake versus Ike, and younger bro Ike defeating Jake. Ike with 115 points to Jake's 89. For me, what I want to point out is what makes me curl up in the fetal position and sob every time I see it, which is Marlon Mack on Ike's team, Indianapolis running back, has scored above 26 points 2 weeks in a row. I actually drafted him and dropped him after 4 or 5 weeks when he was injured and doing nothing. And I picked him up off the waivers, and I can't remember Ike's record last week, but definitely dominating, making a 1-2 punch with him and good old Gurley with the Rams.
That is a strong lineup. It's always great when you can get someone off waivers who can really contribute. And you also see his third running back he started in the flex was Chris Carson, posted 18.4. So he had 3 running backs combined for about 70 points there. And that's, you're doing something right when you've got that.
Yeah, that is very huge. So good all around. Well, sort of. Jordy Nelson, Oakland wide receiver, posting a dud 1.4, but Ike able to make it up. Unfortunately, ironically, Ike was robbed on 2 ends of the Rams Green Bay matchup because Aaron Rodgers, posting only 15 points, was robbed of his final drive by his bad kickoff return, and then
by Gurley, his former teammate who has since then been traded to the Ravens.
Yes, Montgomery quickly traded to the Ravens saying, do not disobey me.
I think that's a lesson to everyone. If there's a quarterback on your work staff, do not upset them to the point where they feel like they can get rid of you.
There you go. And the other side was the infamous Gurley kneel down, which was a great in game decision, but from a fantasy perspective, he had a wide open touchdown he could have ran in for and decided.
For the record, they called that scheme Rolex because at that point, time is actually more valuable than the score.
Yes, it's a good term. Well, Jake, he did have some solid showing. Well, I guess 89 is kind of right in the middle. Mixon, his Cincinnati running back, showing some studliness with 25, but that was only half of what he needed to keep up with Ike's running backs. Jake does have Thielen, which many people are calling the best receiver in the league this year. Do you think that's valid?
I think he is the most consistent in the league this year. Part of the problem for him, though, is he has Diggs on the other side, And they've got a decent young slot receiver, and not to mention they have Kyle Rudolph, tight end. They like to run the ball, Latavius Murray and Dalvin Cook when he's healthy. So there are a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. However, Thielen, I mean, you can pencil him in for about what he got this week, which is 15 points. So he is Mr. Consistent, Mr. Reliable. I think you can't go wrong with that. But if you're expecting someone to, really blow up and get that 25 point, 30 point game, I don't know if he's quite in that kind of high upside category. Granted, yeah. I would start Thielen every week because he's guaranteed 100 yards and a touchdown pretty much every time. But still,
yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, I think he is the most consistent wide receiver. Maybe some of James' wide receivers, can't remember exactly which ones. I know he has 3 or 4 good ones. But a few more things. Jake and I talked on Saturday, and I think the real reason Jake lost is that he sold his soul out to New England.
Of course.
Brady, he started 3 New Englanders. Brady, only 13 points. Gordon, the wide receiver, 4.2. And Hogan, another wide receiver, 4.9. All of them underperforming their projections versus Buffalo. Jake, I'm sorry, this is kind of what happens when you go to the dark side.
It is indeed. You can always get burned that way. And I think the irony is the people that he subbed for, Derek Carr scored 27, 14 more. Nelson Aguilar, while not great, still scored more than either Josh Gordon or Chris Hogan. And the best, he actually benched the New England defense at Buffalo.
Yeah, he could have done even more New England.
For the Denver defense on the road, that's a 20-point swing. So, I mean, that actually, I mean, some of those decisions there could easily have changed the total outcome of this game. But
yeah, the crazy part is Denver, the week before versus Arizona, had posted 34 fantasy points, which was a big reason why Jake beat you last week, I think.
That is a very large reason why.
So,
however, Denver against the worst offense in football, or at least one of the bottom 2 or 3.
Yes.
Comparing that this week at Kansas City, who has been the best offense in football, I feel like that.
Yeah.
That might not have been
anyone
wise.
Against Buffalo does great. I mean, that's a great observation.
Unless you're the Vikings at home.
Coming. Yeah. All right. Well, congrats to Ike for pulling out the War of the Brothers. Sorry, Jake, for ragging on you, but it's just too fun.
That's what you deserve.
We're going to go to the, I think, most exciting matchup of the week, Hanging with Hernandez versus Straight Cash Homies. Gamroth coming out with a very good win, 123 points versus Dornbush, 113. And I was watching this matchup. Dornbush was looking very good a lot of Sunday. And then by the time Sunday night finished, it was like Gamroth down to less than 5 points, maybe only 2 points with just Edelman left, his wide receiver. And Gamroth pulling out the win despite Baltimore, his defense showing a negative 4 points.
Quite possibly the best overall defense in football, posting negative 4 points. I don't think anyone saw that coming.
No, I don't think so. So to me, this is just the James Conner train for his Pittsburgh running back, quote unquote backup, now the starter, just messing up the entire intended balance of the draft. And I don't know if it's going to be stopped. I don't know what you think, if Le'Veon Bell's going to come back in week 10 when he needs to.
He has to. If he doesn't, he doesn't advance in eligibility, and he has another year in Pittsburgh. So I don't know if I can see any way in which he doesn't come back unless he wants to hold out as some kind of social protest against the injustice of the franchise tag. But
yeah, that is injustice of the millions and millions you get paid.
That's true. I mean, he's already given up $7 million, so $8 million. So
wow,
who knows? Maybe he's willing to give up more. But yeah, you're looking at another team with running backs who just ran away with it. 75 points from his 3 running backs. Oh, I even missed Kareem Hunt. So 4 running backs posting 90 points for
Jeez.
for John there. So
Can I
that
have one
is
of those,
strong.
Gamma?
That's right. Well, I mean, Adrian Peterson, who everyone wrote off as dead, that Gamroth got late in the draft, really coming on strong. McCaffrey, the expected starter, doing okay. James Conner, they're supposed to be the handcuff to Bell, post going crazy, and then Kareem Hunt, solid as always. So really, just a great overall running back week. Pretty much all of the top running backs were with either Gamroth or Ike this week. So
yeah, it's very nice. I mean, Dornbush putting up a great showing. I mean, Hopkins, his wide receiver, posting 20 points for Houston. He's proposed to take off with, well, maybe not. I was going to say with Fuller going out. Sorry for you on your team.
That's okay, because now the number 2 receiver for that offense is also on my team. Demaryius Thomas.
Demaryius Thomas is on there too?
He is the
he was on Denver. How was he doing with Denver for you?
Not well. He was clearly the number 3 option, so I think he will improve Demaryius Thomas going from being the number 3 option in the offense to the number 2 option. I am curious. It's going to be a different offense because Will Fuller is, he runs a 4-3, very fast, takes the top off the defense, whereas Demaryius doesn't quite have that speed anymore, but he still has, he's a big guy. He runs good routes, he's got a good work ethic, and he can catch contested balls. So it'll be interesting for them to have 2 guys out wide in either end who are very similar in how they play. But I think that definitely helps Houston, and anyone who has Deshaun Watson can feel comfortable going forward that now they're back to having 3 solid receivers.
Well, that's good to hear because I have Deshaun Watson. So
there you go.
Hopefully that pays off. So what do you think about Dornbush sitting Stephon Diggs? I can't really fault him.
Not when your options are DeAndre Hopkins and Devontae Adams. Those are
well, but he could have moved. He could have put him in the flex and moved Drake into one of the running back slots. Yeldon only 9 points for Jacksonville, and Chubb only 7.5 for Cleveland.
So here's a pro tip. Nick Chubb is now the number 1 running back for Cleveland. However, everyone knows that Pittsburgh defense is terrible, so that's probably why he put him in there. That being said, Pittsburgh's pass defense is one of the bottom in the league, but their run defense is actually top 5. So in the future, if you have a matchup against Pittsburgh as a running back, you probably want to avoid that. But as a receiver, go for it.
Okay. And then Gamroth has Lindsey, Denver running back, on his bench who scored 17. Is he the lead running back for them?
He's been in a timeshare, but Royce Freeman has the dreaded high ankle sprain, so he was out for this past week and will likely be out again. The big problem with that high ankle sprain is you never really know when you're healthy, when you're not. It just kind of drags on and on. So for the meantime, Philip Lindsay is going to be the starter going forwards. Again, I don't know how high his ceiling is, but he's getting enough carries. They like him in the passing game too. Denver is committed to running the ball, so you can't go wrong. So really, if anyone needs to target a trade, maybe one of Gamroth's just plethora of running backs. He has
5 premier running backs. I mean, depends if you classify Lindsay as premier, but
I would say he's definitely a starter.
Yeah, he's a starter. Well, I'm not sure if he will be stopped, but when Le'Veon Bell comes back with the team, it'll also be interesting to see if he plays or how much they use him.
Oh, I think they use him and try and run him into the ground and keep their future fresh. Their future being James Conner, the much cheaper option.
There you go. All right. Well, congrats, Gamroth. He moves to a league-leading 7-1. Let's go ahead and go to the next matchup, which is you, Thornton, versus Callie. Congratulations, pulling off a narrow victory. Oh, not that narrow. 108 points to Callie's 96.
Narrow enough. I admit I was a little scared going into Sunday night when she still had Drew Brees to go and it was getting close, but thankfully Drew Brees just not
6.8
and
points for
and
Breeze.
he didn't even play poorly. They just ran the ball so well and played good defense, so he didn't need to throw a lot, which was really kind of just amazing. It's amazing to think that Drew Brees on the road, the Saints win and score 30 points, and yet Drew Brees only has 6.8 fantasy points. That
Yeah,
just
that's
tells you what kind of day
amazing.
it was.
Against a quote unquote good team with Minnesota.
Mhm.
So, I mean, Cali had very strong showings. Players all in the teens with Beckham Jr., Deshaun Jackson, 13, Murray, Minnesota running back with 15, Cohen with Chicago, 17. That was great. And even her kicker and defense scored above 10. So,
Yeah, they all
yeah,
look good.
Breeze was really the difference. If he had posted, the usual 20. Um,
And here's something that's interesting. If I were her, I probably would have started Kirk Cousins just because I mean Drew Brees is a better quarterback, yes, but at home against the Saints, which have had a terrible passing defense, I think it's a much safer bet to get, at least that 15, 20 points. And those 14 points right there between Kirk Cousins and Drew Brees would have been enough to seal the deal. So
yeah, I credit to you because I don't know that I would have made that call. But I don't have much of a record. I mean, I
I
guess,
am all about streaming quarterbacks or
yeah,
waiting to take quarterbacks. That's been my MO for a long time.
yeah,
Which
Breeze
is
is good, but I mean, I guess he did have a win over the Giants as well, which he only posted 8 points for as well. It does look like Cousins has been a little bit more consistent. I don't know, but
Mhm.
everyone's up and down. It is fantasy football. Anything could happen.
Anything can happen.
There you go.
So thankfully, I was able to pull out a win. Jared Goff, who had a terrible first half for me, really came on strong in the second half. Got those touchdowns, got those passing yards. He's rallying back. The tough thing about the Rams offense, it's almost starting to feel like the Saints when Drew Brees was really in his heyday, is that they have so many weapons that you never really know where the points are going to come from. Gurley can go out and run for all the touchdowns. They could throw to different receivers in every game. Really, it's all over board. So the most consistent person probably in the offense then will be Alvin Kamara, which has been great to see now back-to-back games where they really committed to him being the lead back, and not that they haven't included Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram's definitely been there, but when they really needed yards and really needed touchdowns, they've committed to Kamara. So that's been good for me to see.
Yeah, it's very good. And Gordon, the Chargers running back for you, also one of your premier guys, was on the bye,
Yep.
and he set out the week before. So you improved to 3-5, still within sight of you're in seventh, one spot out of the playoffs, but you could easily get there.
I am. However, I have more points scored than all of the teams that are 4-4 and 5-3 and 6 oh wait, I have more points scored than everyone by over 100. So if I can
What
get
do you
into
wait? What are you talking about? You
oh
you
those points
have
against, I have more points against.
you
I'm so sorry.
you have the most points against. Yes, people come up for you, but
All that to say, if I can just get into a tie with some of these other teams, I will win the tiebreakers and be able to move up into a playoff spot. So
yeah, you're
English
fourth. It
first.
looks like you're fourth in points
Fourth
scored.
in points scored, but
Uh,
first in points against.
Correct. So, well,
Sorry,
congrats.
moving on.
Sorry, Callie, that's bad beats for you, but I think Callie has accepted defeat already. Ironically, Callie's only 2 wins are against. Oh, never mind. I was thinking of something else. She won versus uh, David Geeslin, but I can't remember who else she beat. So, um, all right. Well, let's move on to our next matchup, which I believe is Geeslin versus James. Geeslin, sadly, kind of rolling over again to 84 points to James's 137. I believe James was the highest scorer this week,
He was indeed.
so he would have beaten everybody. James continuing to live off the back of his wide receivers, led by Mike Evans for Tampa Bay, despite Jameis Winston's 4 picks, still managed to post 23 points.
And actually, before they benched Jameis Winston for Fitzmagic, Evans was not having a good game. And then when Fitzmagic came in, Evans started lighting it up, including I believe, 75-yard touchdown, which was the bulk of his points, and then some other stuff too. So really, it looks like Evans has not been very good with Jameis, even though Jameis had been good from a fantasy perspective. But with Fitzmagic, Evans is a much hotter commodity moving forward.
There you go. And James has Antonio Brown, Pittsburgh wide receiver, posting 19, and Green with Cincinnati posting 13. Some great performance by Cam Newton, posting 27, which included a rush touchdown. So that's got to be feeling good with Newton doing better. And I think he's getting sacked a lot less. Am I right about that?
He is getting sacked less. And they're also, I feel like the previous offensive coordinator was really trying to take the ball out of Cam Newton's hands, run the ball a little bit more, and then have him throw. Whereas their current one says, hey, you are 6'5", 250 pounds, and you are bigger than linebackers. So if you want to take the ball and run him over, then go ahead and do it. So whether or not that's good for his long-term health and long-term viability as a quarterback, I can't tell you. But for fantasy, that is everyone's dream. All the rushing yards, all the rushing touchdowns, which of course are worth more than passing yards and passing touchdowns. So Cam Newton, I don't see that train stopping. I think he's going to be a solid number 1 quarterback just moving through the rest of the season.
There you go. Well, as far as Gieslin, props to him for picking up Lamar Miller, Houston running back, from the waiver wire. He was a free agent, and he posted 19 points for him. I had also targeted him, but I was lower on the waiver priority. So that was good, but just kind of coming up short for Geese. He's kind of missing those premier guys. He did have...
You mean like Le'Veon Bell?
Like Le'Veon Bell. He did have a Sammy Watkins, Kansas City wide receiver, on his bench, scoring 22.
Look at his bench. So Devonta Freeman out for the year. Le'Veon Bell hasn't played a game. Derrick Henry on a bye. Sony Michel out for the game. Corey Davis on a bye. I mean, really, he started just about everyone he could. He just made the poor choice of not starting Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, and like you said, it's kind of Kansas City has so many weapons. Watkins had been underwhelming the previous 4 weeks, but just kind of exploded. But I'm not sure about the Mostert start.
Oh, Mostert.
San Francisco.
So in the previous game, San Francisco at Green Bay, San Francisco had previously been starting Alfred Morris and Matt Breida, and Breida was listed as doubtful, and Morris was fully healthy. And then out of nowhere, Morris got 0 carries, Breida got about 15 carries, and Mostert got about 13 carries and ran for about 70 or 80 yards. And then Breida was coming into this game banged up, so people were thinking, hey, Mostert might have something going. And then, of course, Breida was healthy, Alfred Morris was healthy, and Mostert did nothing.
Oh, okay, so a bit of a gamble.
It's big. It was a big gamble, and I heard other people talking about it, but yeah, you never know. I did also have a friend who was extremely upset in the previous week because he needed 1 point on Monday night from Alfred Morris to win, who was fully healthy and got 1 carry in which he got 10 yards, but then they called a holding penalty, and then never carried the ball the rest of the game. And he was extremely upset that the starting running back did not get a single carry, and he got no points. He was very upset.
Yeah, that's
but
pretty rough.
That is fantasy football for you right there.
That is fantasy football. So, do you think there's any hope for Gieslin to go on a run and salvage the season?
I don't think he has enough time. Really, so his top 2 running backs are out for the year. I guess Le'Veon Bell could come back, but it's going to be too late for him by then. The rest of his team really isn't that terrible. I mean, he's got the Jacksonville defense. He's cobbled together some other pieces, but I just don't think he has quite enough. So maybe if he'd had health, or a running back with his number 2 overall pick who would be willing to play, but that's not the case.
All right, and then we have James with 6-2, second overall in the league. It's been between him and Gamroth for leaders in the league. How do you think these guys are going to meet in the finals?
I think that they might meet in the playoffs, but since I will be in the finals to defend my title, I find that unlikely.
Oh gosh, your false bravado is ruining our podcasting questions here.
I do feel like I have the talent on my team that I could get there, but that doesn't always translate into wins. I do think James has a stacked team. Gamroth has a stacked team. Gamroth has to make the finals. He's just too strong in his running back positions.
Right. Yep. I mean, like we mentioned before, it'll be interesting to see what happens with James Conner. So
that's right.
Okay. Well, final matchup. Dear God. Me losing to Yoshi. Yoshi posting 90 points. Despite only, I think, the 6th highest total of the week. He faced me, and I basically made every managerial decision wrong this week. I posted only 50 points, I believe the lowest score by any team weekly total in the league this year. So I'll try to say some positive things about Yoshi. I mean, he's got Mahomes, which is great. Great for him with Larry Fitzgerald finally breaking out with a new offensive coordinator, 18 fantasy points. That's got to feel pretty good for him.
It's amazing when the new offensive coordinator says, hey, throw the ball to Larry Fitzgerald and see what happens.
Yes, it's much better. I tweeted a GIF of a Jeremy Piven throwing a cell phone into a wall, and the caption was, me when I got the updated that Jameis Winston was benched, and I started him, parentheses, over Watson. And that's exactly what I did, where Jameis Winston posted 8 points, 4 picks, 1 pass touchdown, benched in the middle of the game. Meanwhile, Deshaun Watson on Thursday night versus Miami threw 5 touchdown passes, 0 picks, posting 30 points. So yeah, I'm eating crow on that one.
I can actually feel your pain because in my family league, I started Jameis Winston over Deshaun Watson.
You did?
I did, and I lost by just enough margin that if I had started Deshaun Watson, I would have come ahead of my brother. So.
Oh man, yeah, I guess I wasn't insane. That was the wisdom that Winston was going to keep rolling.
That was popular wisdom, but.
And Watson had a rib injury that you were worried.
He has a rib injury. He also has a leg injury, I believe, as well. But he toughed through it. He was mobile. If you saw the game, he really looked sharp. Especially he had one of his touchdowns where he was scrambling left near the goal line and really dropped his arm angle down low and threw kind of sidearmed, almost like a sidewinder pitcher in baseball, and still had enough heat to get it between 2 defenders to the receiver. So I mean, really, there are some people who just have it, and Deshaun Watson is one of them. I know there were questions when he was coming out from the draft about, would he have the talent? Was he tall enough or big enough, or arm was good enough? But he whatever you need, he's got it. Almost that Aaron Rodgers quality that, he can adjust his arm to make whatever play he needs to make in that moment.
Yeah, it sounds like a little bit like, Mahomes, although he doesn't run as much, but which Yoshi had on his side for 26 points, as I mentioned. And then, let's see, Lambeau, Jacksonville kicker, did well for him. But yeah, for me, basically, I mean, all my bench guys would have been better on my team. I was agonizing over who to start, and pretty much every decision I made, like the players I picked up from free agency, they underperformed, and the people I dropped for them scored higher. It was kind of like literally everything that could go wrong went wrong for me to post only 50 points. So
In fact, I think if you took all of your combined running backs, they would equal one of Gamrot's running backs for the week.
Yes. Yep.
That's
So it was pretty sad. Even though if I started all my optimal starters, I wouldn't have actually won. So it was just that kind of week. Hopefully, I can pick and move forward, but I'm not sure. Yoshi, little, it's good to get a win when you need to. He's actually in third overall in the league at 6-2.